गुड मॉर्निंग। सभी को नमस्ते। मैं मंगेश बोरकर, डायरेक्टर संबोधि करियर एकेडमी, ठाणे, मुंबई रीजन। आप सभी का आज 8 अक्टूबर 2023 रविवार को इस बहुत ही खास, बहुत ही स्पेशल और जिसे हम एक जागृति का अभियान कहते हैं, उस जागृति के अभियान तहत यह स्पेशल सेशन आयोजित किया गया है। इस स्पेशल सेशन को डिलीवर करने के लिए मेरे यूपीएससी सिविल सर्विसेज के बैचमेट और संबोधि करियर एकेडमी के प्रशासक बनो अभियान, जिसके माध्यम से गत 17 वर्षों से हम लोग जो आईएएस, आईपीएस, आईआरएस, एमपीएससी, बैंकिंग स्टाफ सिलेक्शंस, एनडीए, सीडीएससी और काफी सारे सर्विसेज थ्रू उच्च अधिकारी बनाने का जो अभियान हम चलाते हैं, उसमें शामिल मेरे बहुत ही करीबी दोस्त डॉक्टर हेमंत मधुकर तिरपुड़े जी इस सेशन में उपस्थित है। डॉक्टर हेमंत तिरपुड़े बेसिकली उनका जो क्वालिफिकेशन है वो बीडीएस है, बैचलर ऑफ डेंटिस्ट्री एंड सर्जरी। एंड उसके बाद हम लोग साथ में नागपुर के स्टेट इंस्टीट्यूट फॉर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव करियर में साथ में हम दोनों यूपीएससी सिविल सर्विसेज के लिए प्रिपरेशन करते थे। 2004 से हमारी दोस्ती है, जो सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के मोमेंट में अभी तक हमारी कायम है। और इसी दोस्ती को निभाते हुए हम लोग काफी सारे सेशंस, काफी सारे प्रोग्राम्स लोगों को, इस देश के स्टूडेंट्स को, खास करके जो ब्यूरोक्रेसी में आने चाहते हैं और जो ऑलरेडी ब्यूरोक्रेसी में है, जो टीचिंग फील्ड में है, जो सोशल एक्टिविस्ट है, जो अन्य डिपार्टमेंट्स में ऑफिसर्स के तौर पे है, गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट्स के तौर पे है, तो ऐसे लोगों को उनके सामाजिक जिम्मेदारी का महत्व समझाने के लिए और उनके माध्यम से लोगों का कल्याण हो, जो वेलफेयर स्टेट की जो संकल्पना है, उस संकल्पना पे वो लोग चले। इसी विचार को ध्यान में रखते हुए हम लोग काफी सालों से रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन, इसके ऊपर काम करते हैं। और मेरे मित्र डॉक्टर हेमंत त्रिपुरी जी का उसमें बहुत साथ है। बहुत वो खुद जहाँ जहाँ पे उनकी ट्रांसफर होती है, पोस्टिंग्स होती है, वहां पे लोगों को जागरूक करने का काम, ऑफिसर्स लोगों को जागरूक करने का काम करते रहते हैं। और आज का सेशन भी इसी जागरूकता अभियान की एक कड़ी है। तो मैं इस सेशन में पार्टिसिपेट, जो नॉन संबोधियंस है, मतलब जो संबोधि करियर एकेडमी के स्टूडेंट्स नहीं है, ऐसे सभी स्टूडेंट्स का, ऑल इंडिया से ज्वाइन हुए जो ऑफिसर्स है अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट्स के, उन सभी ऑफिसर्स का, जो शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में काम करते हैं, उन सभी लोगों का, और मेरे जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं संबोधि करियर एकेडमी के, उन सभी का स्वागत करता हूं। और इस सेशन में जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन है, इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन को आप अच्छे से समझ ले, क्योंकि मैंने मुंबई में बहुत बड़ा प्रोग्राम लगाया था हेमंत त्रिपुरे सर का। एक 4 साल पहले, बिफोर पैंडेमिक, वो प्रोग्राम हुआ था 2018 में, और जिसमें करीब 400 के करीब अलग अलग डिपार्टमेंट्स के ऑफिसर्स थे। कस्टम्स, इनकम टैक्स, सेल टैक्स, मिनिस्ट्रीज, पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट और काफी सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स के ऑफिसर्स थे, स्टूडेंट्स थे। और एक बहुत ही बड़ा जो माहौल है मुंबई में उस समय हमने निर्माण किया था। मुंबई और महाराष्ट्र से उसमें लोग आए थे। उसका इनिशिएटिव संबोधि करियर एकेडमी के माध्यम से मैंने लिया था। और उसके बाद फिर हमने काफी जगहों पे वो प्रोग्राम्स त्रिपुरे सर के रखे थे। और एक अच्छा जो अवेयरनेस है, वो मुंबई क्षेत्र में क्रिएट हुआ था। महाराष्ट्र में काफी सारे प्रोग्राम्स, ऑल इंडिया में काफी सारे प्रोग्राम्स हेमंत त्रिपुरे सर के हुए हैं। उनका जो प्रेजेंटेशन है और उनके जो ओपिनियन है रिलेटेड टू पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन, वो बहुत ही अभ्यास पूर्ण है। मतलब जैसे रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी की जब बात आती है तो लोग उड़पटांग बातें करते रहते हैं। लोग कुछ भी प्रॉपरली उस विषय पे पढ़ाई न करते हुए बातें करते हैं। तो इस तरह से यह सेशन नहीं है। इस सेशन में रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी का ओरिजिन, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन का ओरिजिन क्या है, वो उस रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी को जो लोग रिजर्वेशन के बेनिफिट्स लेते हैं, मतलब जो शेड्यूल कास्ट है, शेड्यूल ट्राइब्स है, ओबीसी है, विजय है, एनटी है, एसबीसी है, उन्होंने समझ लेना। और जिनको रिजर्वेशन के बेनिफिट्स नहीं मिलते हैं, और अभी का जो अभी कैटेगरी भी हमारे केंद्र सरकार ने उसमें जोड़ दी है, तो ऐसे सारे सामाजिक घटकों ने रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी को समझ लेना। और जिन्हें रिजर्वेशन के बेनिफिट्स, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी के बेनिफिट्स अवेल नहीं होते हैं, उन्होंने भी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन, जिसे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में अफर्मेटिव एक्शन कहा गया है, सकारात्मक भेदभाव कहा गया है, पॉजिटिव डिस्क्रिमिनेशन कहा गया है, उसको समझ लेना यह बहुत बड़ी बात है। ओके, और ये आवश्यकता है, क्योंकि हम देखते हैं कि आए दिन महाराष्ट्र में और संपूर्ण देश में रिजर्वेशन से रिलेटेड डिमांड्स चल रही है। अलग अलग कम्युनिटीज का ये मानना है कि उन्हें अगर डेवलप होना है, उनका अगर आर्थिक शैक्षणिक विकास करना है, तो उन्हें रिजर्वेशन मिलना जरूरी है। ओके, और फिर उसके खिलाफ कुछ अलग, कुछ कम्युनिटीज खड़ी होती है, वो बोलती है कि नहीं, इनको रिजर्वेशन नहीं मिलना चाहिए, या फिर हमारे कैटेगरीज में नहीं आने चाहिए। तो ऐसी काफी सारी बातें होती रहती है। कभी किसी को ट्राइबल्स का स्टेटस चाहिए, तो कभी किसी को रिजर्वेशन चाहिए। ये सारे अलग अलग मुद्दे हैं। कोई बोलता है कि आर्थिक आधार पे रिजर्वेशन हो, तो आर्थिक आधार पे रिजर्वेशन तो अभी लागू ही हो गया है, ईडब्ल्यूएस, इकोनॉमिकली वीकर सेक्शंस। उसे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी वैलिडिटी दी, और पार्लियामेंट ने तो उसे सैंक्शन किया ही था। तो ऐसे काफी सारी बातें हैं रिजर्वेशन पॉलिसी से जुड़ी हुई, और बेसिक पॉलिसी ऑफ रिजर्वेशन। तो हम लोग इस पॉलिसी को आज डॉक्टर हेमंत त्रिपुरी जी के माध्यम से समझेंगे। मैं उनका और सभी का स्वागत करता हूं। एंड नाउ ओवर टू यू डॉक्टर हेमंत, प्लीज कंटिन्यू योर सेशन। थैंक यू वेरी मच, एंड आई वेलकम ऑल ऑफ यू ऑन द बिहाफ ऑफ संबोधि करियर एकेडमी। थैंक यू। या।
Okay, thank you, Mangesh. Good morning, all of you. On the day of Sunday, we are gathered here to discuss that issue which is creating ripples in the society as well as in the country. You might be experiencing that since 3 to 4 months, the northeast of India is burning just because of the wrong understanding of the issue which we are about to discuss. It is not for the first time that the law and order situations, protest, agitations, rioting has happened due to this contentious issue of reservations. In fact, it is not at all contentious. It is the ignorance which has made it contentious. Ignorance by us, the civil society, the common citizens, ignorance of the policy makers, ignorance of the policy executors, and even at point of time, to some extent, lack of clarification or a desired clarification which is required from the constitutional courts. We are discussing this issue in the personal capacity. All these views are in my personal capacity. The Means I also feel that the restlessness, the burning sensation in the minds of the society, in the minds of the people, due to this issue, we are not able to pacify that burning sensation with the necessary education and enlightenment. I am also feeling responsible for this, basically because few years ago we had started this CPR India mission with the same objective, so as to make the civil society understand what is this constitutional policy of reservations, what were the thoughts of the policymakers when this policy was being enshrined in the Constitution of India, what was the historical background under which we have felt the necessity to create this special provision, what are the modalities of its implementation, who are eligible, why certain set of features make them eligible, who are not entitled. Basically, what I feel is that the necessity of creating this policy of reservation was not because of the social groups whom we call today as OBCs, SC, STs, NT, DNTs. These social groups, they were not at all in the what we call they were though the object of this policy of reservation, but it is not because of these people the constitution framers were required to put into place this affirmative policy. Apart from all these groups, the remaining people, it is those remaining set of people, the remaining classes, the remaining social groups whom we call the forward class, which emanates from the forward castes. It is this group of people because of which we are seeing this present constitutional policy of reservation today in this country. This might sound something what we call unrelatable, or we may not be able to relate how the forward classes of this country or of this society are responsible for giving rise to this policy of reservations. Yes, there is a very logical, there is a very direct correlation between these two things. How how is this correlation? We will be discussing it when we discuss the basis of this policy of reservations. Right now, let us just understand how today's talk will be flowing. We will be discussing the policy of reservation as per the provisions enshrined in the Constitution. And based on those provisions, we will be going first to the existing areas and scope of those provisions. Second, we would try to understand the necessity of introducing these provisions in those particular areas, in those particular spheres. Thirdly, the background and history. So, in the present modern Constitution of India, we have the policy of reservations implemented in three different areas. First is what we call political reservation, and the corresponding articles in the Constitution of India related to this political reservation, whether anyone will be able to tell it. The corresponding articles related to the political reservations. Which are the corresponding articles? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 335, 340. Yes. This is, it's the article 330 and 332. Article 330 provides for a reservation of certain seats in Lok Sabha in favor of the social groups of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Article 332 provides similar representation to these social groups in the legislative assemblies of the states, state legislatures. So Article 330 for the parliament, Article 332 for the state legislatures. Yeah, we also have Article 335, which is also related to this political reservation, which stated that this political reservation should lapse after 10 years of implementation of the Constitution. So, as per this Article 335, it should have been the year 1960 in which the political reservation should have ended. But we are seeing it being extended by the parliament. After every 10 years, this political reservation is being extended. Now, there is an elaborate process of constitution amendment. Every 10 years, a constitutional amendment is required to be enacted to extend this political reservation for further 10 years. So now we are in 2023. In 2019, the last constitutional amendment was made to extend this political reservation for next 10 years, that is till 2030. Now, political reservation, what is the importance? What was the need for making this special provision to the members of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes? So the reason was that these groups, these social groups, they were never in the 3000 years of the history of this country, these social groups, they were not involved in the process of lawmaking. The process of lawmaking which goes on, it is not only through the way of constitution, it is not only through way of laws, statutes, it was also through the way of customs, traditions, which were having the religious sanctity. Through the religious law books, which made these laws, which made these societal rules. So before the implementation of constitution, these social groups, they were not having any say in creation of any rules for the society, in framing of any procedures, in framing of any customary law, customary rule for the society. So this was the history that, okay, these social groups were not involved. They were deprived of the opportunities from being involving themselves in creating and carving even the customary laws, even the societal laws. So that history being kept in the mind, the modern constitution framers, they thought it fit and appropriate. Okay, let them involve now. Let these group of people be involved in the modern process of lawmaking. Yeah, though they were not involved in the ancient process of lawmaking, in the ancient process of customary rules, in the ancient process of societal rules. Okay, let us correct ourselves and let us involve themselves in the lawmaking. So, with this mindset, with this corrective thought of action, we see this Article 330, we see this Article 332, so that the members of parliament who are sitting in the Lok Sabha, who are directly elected by these people, by the people of this country, in that Lok Sabha, we will be seeing that apart from the members of other societies, other societal groups, we will also be seeing the member of parliaments from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, specifically for this reason, so that they play an important role when any law is being framed, when any law is discussed in the Lok Sabha, when any law provision, when any rule provision is being discussed in the House of the Parliament. It is expected that the members of the Lok Sabha, they also give a hearing, they also give a patient hearing to the parliamentarians belonging to these communities, so that their apprehensions, their objections, and their suggestions are incorporated while framing any law, which are related to the interests of the society from which these groups emerge. So at the central level, at the union level, it is the parliament, where we have the parliamentarians from the SC/ST groups, and at the state legislatures, we have the legislators from the SC/ST groups with a defined purpose, to see that the interests of these social groups are being taken care of. Secondly, the interest which the rights which are now being enjoyed by these communities are not being threatened while enacting any law. These are the major responsibilities incumbent on the legislators and the parliamentarians who come from the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community. This is the present status, and that is the reason not only the parliamentarians and legislators who are in the ruling parties. This duty is also incumbent on those parliamentarians and legislators who are also sitting in the opposition benches. So it is not like that only the ruling party parliamentarians and legislators of SC/ST should involve themselves. It is also the duty of the opposition parliamentarians and legislators from these social groups who have to involve themselves. Just Can anyone give an example of this where there was a debate on a particular law which was related to the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe community, and where there were discussions whether that law provisions should be continued or modified or not? It has happened recently, within means I think 2 or 3 years ago, where we had seen the parliamentarians. Yes, I am seeing one response. It was the law which is in common parlance called as the Atrocities Act. Actually, it is not the Atrocities Act, it is the Prevention of Atrocities Act. So it was on this law, there was major discussions on the procedural aspect, where the Supreme Court of India had uh, made certain observations which were not in the interest of the implementation of the law, which were not in the interest, which were not according to the intention with which this Prevention of Atrocities Act was framed. So as to overrule the observations of the Supreme Court, certain changes were discussed and those observations were overruled. That was means this is the way in which the provisions of the Constitution function. We can see the provisions of the Constitution being operated in our day-to-day lives. So this was the means in the elections also you will be seeing that certain constituencies are reserved for the members of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Yeah, it is this thing. Because means, can you imagine, we had said to certain sections of people that okay, we will be making laws for you, but we will not be asking you what are your requirements. We will be framing laws for you, but we will not even be consulting you as to what are your requirements. You will not be in the picture at all while framing the laws. Means this was the scenario for the past 3,000 years in the history of this country prior to the implementation of the Constitution. And now that is why we are seeing the reserved constituencies for the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes for the elections of member of parliament and elections of member of legislative assembly. It is in this perspective, it is in this background we should visualize these provisions. And what was the means, it is the philosophy, it is the basic philosophy that those who are being ruled, they should be involved in rule making. Those who are being ruled, they should be involved in the rule making. And let us now go back to the history of this philosophy. And that history is in our freedom struggle. The freedom struggle of this country. It was because British parliamentarians were framing laws sitting there in London. Sitting there in London, the British lawmakers were making laws for the citizens of, for the people of India, for the people of this country. That was against the natural law. That was against the natural order. And that is why the freedom fighters, while giving rise to a sustained freedom struggle, their first demand, when when the process of legislation was being introduced by the Britishers in this country, and we were seeing that, okay, now the democratic process of lawmaking is now being introduced in this country, but the Indians are not having any representation in this lawmaking. That was the starting point of the freedom struggle of this country, that we Indians also want to be part of that process through which you are making laws for us. And the freedom fighters, they demanded the participation of Indians in the lawmaking. So participation of Indians in the lawmaking was the foremost demand during the earliest phases of the freedom struggle. So now we are seeing that when laws were framed, when policies were framed, whether they would be the political policies, whether they would be the social policies, whether they would be the economic policies and rules, Indian felt that if these rules and policies and laws are being made for us, we should be party to that process of lawmaking. And that is how this beginning of freedom struggle was started. Now, let us here who were the two parties? Here we are seeing the British as a foreigners who are preparing laws for the people of India. So we are having Britishers versus Indians. Indians demanding their participation in lawmaking. Now, keep this thought in the back of the mind and let us see what was happening at the same time in this country, within the country. We were now talking about the lawmaking process which was happening outside the country in London. Now let us talk about the law process which was happening within the country. So, within the country, we were having our customary laws. Anyone who can cite any example of the customary laws which were present in this country till the implementation of Constitution? Any example of customary law? And I'm seeing many okay, laws related to marriage, then laws related to women. I am seeing many female participants here, girl participants here. There was something called as sati, which was a customary law. It was a customary law for the Indians where the wives of the deceased husband had to burn herself on the pyre of that husband. This was a customary law. Now, all the girls who are in this webinar, just let me know whether any of the women folk of this country were taken into confidence while making this law. ये जो 3000 साल में ये जो कस्टम बनाई गई थी सती की, सती प्रथा की, किन लोगों ने बनाई? इंडियंस ने बनाई. इंडियंस ने बनाऊ उस विच इंडियंस? ओके, मेल्स, मेन फोक, पुरुषों ने, आदमी लोगों ने ये सती प्रथा बनाई. तो क्या भारत के जो स्त्रियां थी, भारत में रहने वाले जो गर्ल्स थे, जो वुमन थी, जो महिलाएं थी, क्या उनसे पूछा गया कि मैडम हम अभी ये कस्टम बना रहे हैं, आपकी आपके सजेशंस दीजिए, आपके ओपिनियंस दीजिए कि अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन होती है जहां पर आपके हस्बैंड की मृत्यु होती है तो आपको भी उनकी जो बर्निंग फायर है उस पर कूदना है, एंड यू ऑल्सो हैव टू गिव अप योर लाइफ। क्या ये लॉ मेकिंग प्रोसेस में अगर महिलाओं को शामिल किया जाता, वेदर वुमन वुड हैव कंसेंटेड टू दिस लॉ? क्या महिलाओं को अगर पूछा जाता तो क्या महिलाएं अपनी अपनी राय, पॉजिटिव राय देती या निगेटिव राय देती? कोई महिलाएं ये नहीं बोलती कि भैया हम भी अपनी जान देंगे। इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट कि वुमेन वर नॉट लविंग देयर हस्बैंड, एंड इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट कि भैया मैं अगर मेरे हस्बैंड के लिए उसके मरने के बाद सेक्रीफाइस करती हूं तो ही ये साबित होगा कि मैं उससे प्यार करती थी या आई वॉज कमिटेड टू हिम। थर्डली, सबसे पहले महिलाएं तो ये क्वेश्चन पूछती कि बाबा मेरा ही कमिटमेंट क्यों टेस्ट किया जा रहा है, हस्बैंड लोगों का कमिटमेंट क्यों नहीं टेस्ट किया जा रहा है कि मेरे मरने के बाद हस्बैंड भी अपनी जान देंगे। ये एस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए कि ही वॉज ऑल्सो कमिटेड टू हिज लव, टू हिज वाइफ, एंड देयरफॉर ही विल ऑल्सो सैक्रिफाइस हिज लाइफ। This is the importance of participation of the people in lawmaking, for whom we are making laws. For whom we are making laws. So, this is the importance, this is the significance, and that is the reason when 19 अच्छा भारत में during the beginning of modern India, history of modern India, and when the legislative process was introduced, what was the first law which was made by the British, which started the process of elections in this country? Though they were indirect elections, but still the process of elections were introduced by the Britishers in this country. What was that first law? In which year it was enacted? Against the background of that law, the demand of Indians to be given the right to vote and the right to participate in elections. Am I not audible? I'm getting a message that voice is very low. I'm trying to
नाही नाही,
speak it.
येतोय येतोय. येतोय, आवाज
Okay.
येतोय
ठीक
चांगला.
है, ठीक.
काही लोकांचा प्रॉब्लेम असेल माईकचा, त्यांनी चेक करून घ्यावा. आवाज येतोय.
Yeah. Okay, okay. There was one reform which is called by the name Morley
मोर्लेमेंट.
Minto reforms, which happened in 1909. It is 1909, during which year, from which year the process of elections started, and it was from this year that Indians also were allowed to participate in voting as well as in the uh, allowed them to participate for the post for which the election is being held. And at that time, anyone having any idea what were the conditions for becoming a voter? In 1909, from 1909, the people of this country, some of the people of this country were eligible for voting. And but not everyone was allowed to vote. Only few people were given this privilege to vote. And there were certain criterias. Yes, the criteria was that a person who is paying such and such revenue is entitled to vote. A person who is having such and who is sitting in such and such official position, he is holding some official position, he is being entitled to vote. So revenue, his official position was the criteria. His income status, his political status was the criteria for voting. Now, why I am discussing this issue in such a way? We Indians in general, we are very, what we call, showing a very, showing criminal apathy towards the process of elections. हमें ऐसा लगता है कि भैया ये इलेक्शन बड़ी गंदी चीज है, लेट अस नॉट इन्वॉल्व आवरसेल्फ इन दिस प्रोसेस. ये जो वोटिंग राइट्स मिलने के लिए द स्ट्रगल आर फ्रीडम फाइटर्स and all the lawmakers, constitution makers have gone through, we don't realize that pains, we don't realize their sacrifices, how much they have undertaken so that we would be entitled to vote. Right now there is only one condition, that is any Indian who is above 18 years. Simple criteria. No criteria of any political position, no criteria of any official position, no criteria of income. आप कितना revenue pay कर रहे हो? No. Because we are making law for you, you are entitled to be involved in this process of lawmaking. Seeing the percentage, voting percentage in every election, yes, it is discouraging. It is not it is discouraging because it is a sign of ignorance on the part of voters, on the part of citizens, on our part. So now we are discussing the history of this political reservation. 1909 was the first law. Then we come to the 1919, that is Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Both these are also called as Government of India Act 1909, Government of India Act 1919. And after that, we come to the commission, which was very much talked about in the history, that is Simon Commission. Simon Commission was constituted to review these two laws, the Government of India Act 1909, Government of India Act 1919, to review the functioning of these laws and to suggest the changes. And in this commission, the commission was headed obviously by the Britishers. There were, though the commissions were supposed to have a talk, to have meetings, to have consultations with the members of the Indian society also. So these people, the commission will be talking to the Indian people also, who were supposed to give their suggestions, give their views to these commissions. And in these commissions, it was the suggestion given by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar through his organization, Bahishkrit Hitkarani Sabha. They gave a suggestion to the Simon Commission that the untouchable groups, the tribal groups, the marginalized sections, they are not having any say in the lawmaking process, and that is the reason we want our representation to be included in this process, these social groups to be incorporated. So it is the during the process of hearings of the Simon Commission, this suggestion was given. Now, the suggestion given by Baba Sahab was that it should be adult franchise. Adult franchise. Anyone who can explain the meaning of this term, adult franchise? Yeah, means I am asking questions to just check whether you are with me or not. What is the meaning of adult franchise? Adult, who is the word itself is explanatory. Yes, yes, it is voting right to the people who are above 18 years of age or who are adult at that time. Means the definition of adult is according to the age which is stipulated in the law. So, जो एडल्ट है उनको वोटिंग देने के राइट्स आपको देना है. दिस इज व्हाट बाबा साहब कन्वेड टू द साइमन कमीशन. एंड मींस जितने भी लोग है, यू द अदर मीनिंग ऑफ दिस वाज द कंडीशंस विच वर इम्पोज्ड फॉर गिविंग द वोटिंग राइट्स. यानी आपका जो इनकम क्राइटेरिया था वोटिंग के लिए वो एबॉलिश करना है. आपका जो सोशल पोजीशन का जो क्राइटेरिया है वोटिंग के लिए वो एबॉलिश करना है. एंड देयर शुड बी ओनली वन क्राइटेरिया दैट अ पर्सन नीड ओनली बी एन एडल्ट फॉर एक्सरसाइजिंग हिज वोटिंग राइट. So this is what Baba Sahab demanded, to abolish all other criteria for becoming a voter and only one single criteria, that being an adult. This was the first suggestion he made. Secondly, he suggested that there should be representation of the members of the depressed classes. At that time, the tribals, the untouchable groups, they were known by this term, depressed classes. So, these depressed classes should also be having their representatives, their political representatives through joint electorates. In front of Simon Commission, Baba Sahab Ambedkar presented his two demands. First of voting rights through adult franchise, and second, political representation to the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes through joint electorates. But when it came to the roundtable conference, there were 3 roundtable conferences which were held in London to discuss the recommendations of Simon Commission. Can anyone tell me the years during which these 3 roundtable conferences were held? In which year these roundtable conferences were held? Yes. The process began from 1930, 31, 32. During this roundtable conference, specifically in the second roundtable conference, Dr. Ambedkar changed his stand. He sharpened his stand because the members of the Indian National Congress, the representatives of the Indian National Congress, they were not ready for giving political representation to members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So, the demand of joint electorate, which Baba Sahab made before Simon Commission, he changed it to the demand of separate electorate in the roundtable conference. Seeing the opposition of the Indian National Congress members, means here now the situation has entirely changed. First, we were seeking our right or a right to politically represent to the Britishers. And Britishers were opposing our right. Here we had a scenario where a particular group of Indians themselves were opposing the political rights to another marginalized groups of Indians. So it was some sort of dispute between the Indian groups, which was being discussed there in the roundtable conference. So there Baba Sahib Ambedkar sharpened his demand and said that no, along with adult franchise, now we want the political representation through separate electorate. So the difference between a joint electorate and separate electorate, right now in this country, we are having joint electorates. In joint electorates, in a particular constituency, all the voters of that constituency are entitled to vote. This is called joint electorate. Separate electorate means if that electorate consists of members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in larger numbers, then only the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes will be having the voting rights to elect the representative from that constituency. The other people, the other voters who do not belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, they will not be having any right to vote the representative of this SC and ST people. So this is the difference between joint electorate and separate electorate. In the second roundtable conference, this was the demand made. This demand was exceeded also. This demand was accepted by the Britishers also. However, it was Gandhiji who opposed this separate electorate and began his fast. And there was intense discussions between the members of the Congress party and the members of the Depressed Classes Institute headed by Baba Sahib. So it was like a scenario where Baba Sahib on behalf of the depressed classes were demanding the separate electorates, and Indian National Congress headed by Gandhiji, they were opposing this demand. So ultimately there was a resolution and a consensus was arrived at where Baba Sahib was forced to surrender the right of separate electorate and to accept the right for joint electorate. And that is called as Pune Pact. You might have read this in the history. Now, in that also, there was a provision for a panel of 4 persons from the depressed classes. It was the procedure of primary elections. The primary elections where the 4 persons who are participating in the elections, they should be only from the depressed classes, and the person of these 4 who will be receiving the highest votes in the primary election, he will then be contesting the final elections. And that in that final elections, both the depressed classes will also be voting and also the other classes will also be voting. This was also a clause in that. But then came the 1935 Act. These provisions were not incorporated. The provisions of primary elections were not incorporated in the Government of India Act 1935. Only joint electorate was continued. And when the process of drafting of modern constitution came, and that time also the joint electorate prevailed, the process of primary election was also given up. Means even the process of primary election, Baba Sahib was not satisfied this process of primary election. He held a different opinion. He said that, okay, instead of this primary election, let us go for that candidate who has secured a minimum percent of votes from the depressed classes. Otherwise, what will be happening is that the person who is standing for election from the reserved constituency, he will be elected by the people, by the voters who do not belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. That is exactly what is happening today. Because right now, it is not a requirement that the SC, ST, MP or MLA who is contesting the election from the reserved constituency, he should be securing minimum 25 or 30% votes from the SC, ST communities. This precondition is not there. Had this precondition been there, it have been the accurate expression of the political will of that constituency. So we have a very long, very tortuous history of this political representation and political reservation, which we are seeing today. This is some brief historical background. I have skipped many technical points. Now, the another area where the policy of reservation is being implemented is the public services. Public services. These public services, what do we mean by public services? Can anyone explain what does this term signify? Reservations in public services. It simply means all the posts which are under the government, be it the state government, be it the central government. Whether the posts are in a particular government department, whether the vacancies are in a public sector undertaking, whether it is a central public sector undertaking or state PSU, whether it is an autonomous organization working under government like EPFO. EPFO is an autonomous organization, but still it is being considered a public service under the definition of state. So all the posts for which the control lies with the government, the ministry, are being termed as public services. So now, here is the second area of reservation, where reservations are being provided to the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in public services. Why? Why reservations are provided to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in public services? Basic question we should ask, we should ponder upon why the reservations were given to the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Can anyone attempt to explain this? We need to understand this in a very, very emphatic manner. Otherwise, we will not be understanding the existing policy of reservations. We should ask why. Why political reservation to SC, STs? We have discussed. Now, why reservation in public services? And currently, just why political reservation to women? However, I think it is less than 10 days that a law has been passed where 33% of seats in parliament and legislative assemblies have been reserved for women. Women should be asking the question, why? Why the need? Why the need for making reservations to women? when they discuss the why, they will be getting the answers. They will be knowing, okay, महिलाओं को सती प्रथा थोपी गई थी, वो कानून बनाया गया था, हमें पूछा नहीं गया था. वुमेन वर नॉट अलाउड टू लर्न, वुमेन वर नॉट अलाउड टू एजुकेट देमसेल्फ. दैट इज द रीजन. वो कानून आप बनाओगे. वुमेन वर फोर्स्ड टू शेव देयर हेड्स. वुमेन वर नॉट अलाउड टू रिमेरी. And even today we are seeing the inhuman practice of female infanticide, where female baby child are being killed after they are born. These were the customary laws for the woman which were made by men. हम लोगों ने आपके लिए, आपके ही अगेंस्ट में कानून बनाए. This is the reason for the women reservation, so that men should not frame any laws which are detrimental to the interest of women, which are detrimental to the educational interest of the woman, which are detrimental to the political interest, social interest, economic interest of the woman. महिलाओं को संपत्ति में कोई अधिकार नहीं मिलेगा. ये कानून पुरुषों ने बनाया, इसीलिए जरूरत है वुमेन रिजर्वेशन की, ताकि आगे चलकर पुरुष ऐसा कोई कानून ना बना पाए जो महिलाओं से उनके संपत्ति का अधिकार छीने, उनके आर्थिक अधिकार छीने. दैट इज द रीजन. दैट इज why is more important. Why political reservation to women? Now, why reservation to scheduled caste and scheduled tribes in public services? Can anyone answer this question? Yeah, even religious rights to women were denied. So शेड्यूल कास्ट और शेड्यूल कास्ट ट्राइब के लोगों को कोई भी डिसेंट ऑक्यूपेशन, कोई भी डिसेंट जॉब में पार्टिसिपेट करने से मना किया गया था. The members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, they were not allowed to employ themselves in any decent income earning occupations. They were forced to do the work which is mandatory according to the caste rules in which they were born. It were the restrictions of employment on the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes which were the reason, the caste restrictions, which were the reasons for enacting the provisions of reservations in public services. भैया, आपकी तब काबिलियत नहीं देखी जाती थी, आपका सामाजिक दर्जा देखा जाता था. आपको ट्रेनिंग नहीं दी जाती थी. आपको यह कहा जाता था कि ट्रेनिंग के बगैर ही आप काबिल नहीं हो, ट्रेनिंग के बाद भी आप काबिल नहीं रहोगे, क्योंकि आप उस पर्टिकुलर सामाजिक तबके से आते हो, आप उस जाति से आते हो, आप उस कबीले से आते हो. इसलिए आपको जो डिसेंट अर्निंग जॉब्स है वो आपको सूट नहीं करती है, आप सूटेबल नहीं हो उसके लिए. नाउ पब्लिक सर्विसेज इंडिया में कब से स्टार्ट हुई? They were introduced by Britishers. In British India, during British India, we were having the bureaucracy, the administrative setup, where the senior most positions were held by Britishers, जिसको अभी हम क्लास 1 पोस्ट कहते हैं या ग्रुप ए की पोस्ट कहते हैं. मोस्ट ऑफ द पोस्ट वर मैन्ड बाय द ब्रिटिश ऑफिशियल्स एंड द सबऑर्डिनेट पोस्ट दे वर हेल्ड बाय इंडियंस. नाउ इवन ब्रिटिश इंडिया में एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में जो लोग पब्लिक सर्विसेज में थे, who were those people, who were those Indians who were in the British bureaucracy? Those people who were working in the subordinate bureaucracy, they were also not from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes or backward communities. The people in British bureaucracy, the Indians in British bureaucracy, they came from higher varnas. They came from Savarna categories, whom we call Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, or Dvij castes, Dvij Varnas, twice born Varnas. Specifically the Brahmin Varnas who were occupying these bureaucracy during the British administration. And it's very interesting to know now British government, British offices, British departments, British officers at the lower strata, Indian people in the bureaucracy. Visualize this scenario. Now, Indians were already part of the British administration. So it was naturally expected that Indian officials who are in the administration, they would be acting favorably towards their fellow citizens, towards their fellow Indians. ये नेचुरल एक्सपेक्टेशन है कि अगर ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में कोई भारतीय काम कर रहा है तो वो अपने लोगों के साथ, बाकी के भारतीयों के साथ भी फेवरेबल व्यवहार करे, उनके लिए काम करे. That was the bond of belonging to this same country. But this bond was not functioning. उस समय भी भारत के नागरिकों से भारत के ही एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में बैठे हुए लोग काम करवाने के लिए पैसा मांगते थे. Let me explain it to you again. During the British administration, we have instances where the Indian people sitting in the subordinate bureaucracy, they were indulging in corrupt practices against the fellow Indians. And these are recorded facts. These are documented facts. Documented in the history of this country. Means thanks to the printing technology that we have those old records with us. Can we imagine, even when we were not independent, the Indian bureaucrats were indulging in corrupt practices against the fellow Indians. Indian administrators were discriminating their fellow Indians, whether it was school administration, whether it was public services, whether it was some department. Let me give you this specific example. It was the public work departments, PWD जिसको हम आज कहते हैं, जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के अंडर में रहता है, पब्लिक वर्क डिपार्टमेंट. And the incident happened with whom? It happened with none other than the Jyotirao Phule, whom we call father of social revolution in modern India. Jyotirao Phule, by profession, in which profession Jyotirao Phule was involved? What was the profession of Jyotirao Phule? Can anyone tell? Neither he was flower trading. He belonged to the caste of Mali, gardener, but that was not his occupation. That was not his profession. Yes, he was a building contractor. He was having his own company. He was a civil contractor. And he was a wealthy civil contractor. गरीब नहीं थे वो, टू बी वेरी फ्रैंक, पैसे वाले थे वो. और आज पूना में जो खड़कवासला डैम दिखता है और जो बैरेजेस दिखते हैं, वो ज्योतिराव फुले की जो कंस्ट्रक्शन कंपनी थी, उन्होंने जो मटेरियल प्रोवाइड किया है, उससे वो बिल्ड किए थे जो अभी भी खड़े हैं. It was the company of Jyotirao Phule who supplied the building material to all these civil projects. And when he approached the PWD department, he was demanded money. So Indians discriminating against Indians. In societal terms, Savarnas discriminating against backwards even in the administrative domain. सोसाइटल डोमेन में तो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो ही रहा है, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव डोमेन में भी वो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन था. एंड दिस वाज द टेंडेंसीज ऑफ द फेलो इंडियंस टुवर्ड्स देयर ब्रदरन, which made it necessary to incorporate the provision of representation, participation, inclusion of SC, STs and backward classes, entire backward classes in public services. यानी एटलीस्ट स्टेट में तो भी, पब्लिक सर्विसेज में भी इस तरह का डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी एटीट्यूड वहां पर नहीं आना चाहिए. और ये जितने भी बैकवर्ड क्लासेस के लोग हैं, जो कि 80 to 85% ऑफ दिस पॉपुलेशन है, दे शुड बी गिवन अ फेयर अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑफ पार्टिसिपेशन. एंड दैट वाज द बेसिक फिलोसफी ऑफ making this provision in Article 16(4). It is not only Article 16(4), it is Article 16 itself which provides for equality and opportunity in public services. Article 16(4) is the extension of Article 16(1). Article 16(4) is the enforcing article of Article 16(1). So this is how the provisions of reservation in public services got incorporated. Yeah, that this demand was also made before Simon Commission, also during the process of Indianization of public services. That is an entirely a different webinar. Indianization of Indian services, where at that time also there was examination, there was recruitment through open competition. However, that open competition was so much flawed, the method of selection was so much flawed that Dr. Ambedkar didn't go for that. That's entirely a different thing. We will go for that. Now, the third area where the policy of reservation is being implemented, it is the education. Education. The same reason, 85% of the people of this country were not allowed to learn, allowed to educate themselves, and so as to prevent the forces of discrimination from acting against them, we see the policy of reservation being implemented in the educational area. But reservation in education was not incorporated in the original constitution. In the original constitution, there were reservation in only two spheres, that is political reservation and reservation in public services. Original constitution didn't have the clause of reservation in education. Can anyone tell me when was this clause introduced in the constitution? This was introduced after the constitution was implemented. In which year? When was the reservation in education for backward classes introduced in the Constitution of India? The Constitution of India was implemented in 1950. Implemented in 1950, and reservation in education was introduced through the first constitutional amendment in the year 1951. The history of reservation in education is very fascinating. History of reservation in education is very fascinating. It was Jyotirao Phule again, who who whom we call the father of reservation policy in India, because it what was the first Indian Education Commission called, which was constituted during British era? What was the first Indian Education Commission called, which was constituted by Lord Ripon? That, yes, because it was headed, that first Indian Education Commission was headed by a Britisher called William Hunter. The commission was named after him, but it was the first Indian Education Commission. It was before this Education Commission that Jyotirao Phule demanded reservation in public services because he faced discrimination from the administrative machinery. He highlighted 2 points: how the British administration was monopolized by the Brahmin employees. First, how the British administration was monopolized by Brahmin employees, and that is not a problem. That was not a problem. What was the problem? The Brahmin employees, the Brahmin administrators in the British administration, they were misusing their powers against the backward classes of this country. They were using their powers for discriminating the backward classes of this country. That was objectionable, and this was pointed out by Jyotirao Phule to the first Indian Education Commission. And that was it was in the year 1882. In the year 1882. And it was the another leader from Maharashtra, that is Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj, who had implemented reservation in education in his principality of Kolhapur in 1902. Because Shahu Maharaj was follower of the Satyashodak movement of Jyotirao Phule. When Shahu Maharaj saw that the recommendations which are made by Jyotirao Phule are not implemented by the British government, he thought it appropriate to at least implement it in the principality of his Kolhapur. So he implemented the recommendations of Jyotirao Phule in his own principality of Kolhapur in 1902, where 50% reservation were introduced. And we also have a South Indian state who had a wonderful history of reservation in education. And that was the Madras Presidency. Madras Presidency, today's Tamil Nadu. At that time, the Justice Party of Indians, Justice Party in 1921, they came to power in Madras Presidency, and they introduced a scheme. What is called was proportional distribution. Proportional distribution. It was not reservation. It was proportional distribution of seats to all the communities, to all the religions, to all the societies. In 1921, in Madras Presidency, that is today's Tamil Nadu, 4 medical colleges and 4 engineering colleges were there. And the seats of these medical and engineering colleges were equally distributed to forward castes, to backward castes, to untouchables, to Muslims, to Christians, to Anglo-Indians. It was not reservation, it was equal distribution, it was proportional distribution of seats in the education. This was introduced in 1921 in Tamil Nadu. Now, that when India became free, when India became independent, that policy was continued by the state government of Tamil Nadu. However, Supreme Court of India, Supreme Court of Independent India, it struck down that policy in the case which is known as, it was the first case related to the reservation. First court case related to the reservations. Can anyone tell the name of that court case which went from High Court of Madras to Supreme Court of India? It was the Champakam Durai Rajan. By name Champakam Durai Rajan in 1950. This Brahmin lady, she opposed this policy of Justice Party. She opposed this equal distribution of seats in the medical and engineering colleges. The High Court of Madras upheld and said that, and it also abolished that scheme of equal representation. Against the judgment of Madras High Court, the Tamil Nadu government went to Supreme Court, and in 1951, Supreme Court gave a judgment saying that, okay, that scheme of equal sharing of seats is against the fundamental rights and it should not be continued. So there comes into picture another great leader from the backward caste, which we know as Periyar Ramaswamy. When the Supreme Court struck down the equal seat sharing in Tamil Nadu, Periyar Ramaswamy, he launched a fierce agitation in the entire South India that there should be a right for the backward classes to represent in educational area. And that agitation led by Periyar Ramaswamy, it forced the Jawaharlal Nehru government to introduce first amendment in the constitution. In the first year itself, in 1951, this constitution was amended with the first amendment related to reservations, and Article 15(4) was inserted. Article 15(4), original constitution had only Article 15(1), 15(2) and 15(3). It was the first amendment which inserted Article 15(4), saying that the socially and educationally backward classes, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, a provision should be made for them in the higher educational institutions. This is the origination of the current provisions related to the reservation, which we are seeing now. Now, let us go to the current status. Though the reservations for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes were implemented in 1950 itself, the reservation to other backward classes in public services as well as in education at central educational institutions, they were not implemented. Other backward classes who still constitute 50% of the population of this country, they did not have the right to represent themselves in central public services and in central educational institutions till the year 1992 and till the year 2006. 1992, from 1992, the Mandal Commission report was implemented and the other backward classes got their right to reservation in public services under central government. From 1950 to 1992, for 42 years, other backward classes were deprived of their constitutional right of participation in public services under central government. Further, other backward classes from 1950 to 2006 were deprived of their constitutional right of participation in higher education under the educational institutions of central government. It was only from 2006 that other backward classes students got their right to participate in the higher educational institutions which are managed and run by central government. Imagine the amount of loss, how many generations of backward classes suffered due to this deprivation in independent India. Deprivation of constitutional right in public service under central government, deprivation of constitutional right of higher education under central government. 3 to 4 generations of backward classes have suffered and they were subjected to the irreparable permanent loss, which is not going to be compensated even if the reservation were implemented from 1992 and in 2006. The loss was permanent. And the saddest part is the OBC community is not at all realizing what permanent loss they have suffered during these 42 years of deprivation and during these 56 years of deprivation from 1950 to 1992 and from 1950 to 2006. So, before independence, we have to fight with British for our constitutional rights, for our natural rights, for our legal rights. After independence, we have to struggle with our own people, with our own government for securing our constitutional rights. Now, moving on to the controversial issues which originate from lack of understanding of the basis of this entire policy of reservation. In the beginning, I had made a statement that SC, ST, OBC people are not responsible for framing this policy of reservation. It is the forward class people who are responsible for this reservation law, for the policy of reservation. How? First question, how? Second, what is the basis of this reservation? Right now, means this entire disputes in various states among various communities, including that of Manipur, it is because of lack of proper understanding of this basis of the constitutional policy of reservation. What is the criteria? What are the parameters? It is being very falsely held that it is the what we call single most misconception related to the reservation policy that it is based on caste. Reservation policy is never based on caste. Reservation policy was never formulated on the basis of caste. Reservation policy was never visualized on the basis of caste. And it is this mindset which is creating problems in understanding, in implementing this policy of reservation. Be very clear. None of the articles related to the policy of reservation say that these policy or these provisions are based on any caste criteria. None of the constitutional provisions say this thing. It was told to us, we were told that reservations are based on caste. Constitution doesn't say that reservations are based on caste. How this opinion was created that reservations are based on caste? What made us think? Who made us think that reservations are based on caste? First, let us understand how these reservations are not based on caste. Very simple. Right now, reservations are being extended to scheduled caste, other backward castes, and scheduled tribes. These are in India. In India, we have two different societies. One is caste-based society, that is a social reality, and another is tribal society. Tribal society, which is not having any caste or varna-like system. Tribal society, the people who are living in the forest areas, in the valley areas, on the mountainous areas, those are the tribal societies which do not have the caste element into it. They are the egalitarian societies. They are the tribal groups. They are what we call the right now 10%, at least 8 to 10% of the tribal groups of this country. Remaining 90% of the population is the caste-based society. Total Indian population comprises of 90% caste-based society and 10% tribal societies. So, in this 90% caste-based society, we see the scheduled castes, we see the other backward classes, that is the backward castes. Backward castes other than the scheduled castes. What is the criteria for scheduled caste? Those groups, those caste groups who were subjected to the practice of untouchability are being called as scheduled caste. Those social groups, those caste groups who were subjected to the practice of untouchability are called scheduled castes. And rest of the caste groups who were denied their social rights, educational rights, economic rights, but they were touchables. They were touchable groups. So, touchable caste groups who were denied their educational rights, economic rights, social rights, they are today's other backward classes. Untouchable groups who were denied their educational rights, political rights, religious rights, social rights are today's scheduled castes. So, in the 90% caste-based community, caste-based society, we see the scheduled castes and backward castes. And that is why we are seeing the process of issuing caste certificates to scheduled caste and caste certificates to the other backward class, to the members of other backward communities. They are being issued caste certificate. Scheduled tribes are not being issued caste certificate. Scheduled tribe do not possess caste certificate. STs are not issued caste certificate. STs are issued tribe certificate. STs belong to a particular tribal group. They do not belong to a caste group. Hence, they are issued ट्राइब सर्टिफिकेट. शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स, आदिवासी जनजातीय लोगों को जाति का प्रमाण पत्र नहीं दिया जाता, उनको ट्राइब सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता है. एनीवन फ्रॉम ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी प्रेजेंट इन टुडेज वेबिनार? Anyone from tribal community? Yeah. From scheduled tribe? From scheduled tribe?
There are
nomadic tribe.
many schools.
Just check the
Many students are
title
there.
of your certificate. Just check the title of your certificate. The title of the certificate for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe is caste oblique tribe certificate. Scheduled caste oblique scheduled tribe certificate. So caste certificate doesn't applies to tribal communities because tribal communities do not have the element of caste system. Tribal communities do not discriminate among each other on the basis of lower social status and higher social status. Acha, let me explain you the difference between the caste groups and tribal groups. I will be telling you 4 caste groups. You have to arrange it on the basis of their social status, from higher social status to lower social status, which is prevalent in the society. We are not ascribing them any social status, but which is prevailing in the society. I will tell you 4 caste groups. कॉबलर कॉबलर कम्युनिटी, जिसको हम चमार कहते हैं. देन वी हैव, ओके, टेक माली कम्युनिटी ऑफ ज्योतिराव फुले. देन वी हैव Rajput community, and we have Brahmin community. These are 4 caste groups. Caste groups belonging to Chamar, caste group by name Mali, caste group by name Rajput, and another caste group by name Brahmin. If we have to arrange it from higher social status to lower social status, how are we going to arrange it? चमार, राजपूत, ब्राह्मीण, माली, 4 जाति समूहों के नाम हैं आपके सामने. सबसे ऊपर में कौन आएगा? सबसे ऊपर में कौन आएगा? ओके, वी हैव अ लिस्ट. सबसे ऊपर में ब्राह्मीण लिखा गया है, सेकंड नंबर पे राजपूत लिखा गया है, तीसरे नंबर पे माली लिखा गया है, और चौथे नंबर पर चमार लिखा गया है. अब मुझे बताइए कौन सी किताब ये ऑर्डर बताती है? टेल मी द नेम ऑफ बुक, टेल मी द नेम ऑफ any book, any law which says that these caste groups are having the social status in that pattern. किसने बताया है ये हमको? कौन सा स्कूल कॉलेज सिखा रहा है ये कि भैया ये समूह ऊपर है, ये इसके नीचे है? अगर कोई स्कूल कॉलेज नहीं सिखा रहा है तो और कौन सिखा रहा है हमें? अगर स्कूल कॉलेजेस में ये हायरार्की हमें सिखाई नहीं जाती है तो इसका मतलब है देयर इज अनदर इनफॉर्मल एजुकेशन सिस्टम विच इज प्रिवेलिंग इन द सोसाइटी एंड विच इज making us realize that okay, this caste group is having lower social status and this caste group is having higher social status. There, apart from the formal education system, there is another thing which is called as societal education system. ये समाज की एक शिक्षा है जो हमें बता रही है कि भैया ये ऊंचा है, ये नीचा है. वी आर नॉट एक्सेप्टिंग इट, हम उसको मान नहीं रहे हैं, लेकिन कोई तो भी हमें बता रहा है. वी नीड टू फाइंड आउट हु इज टेलिंग अस. ये कौन सी किताबों में लिखा गया है, कौन से स्क्रिप्चर्स में लिखा गया है, ऊपर और नीचे. ये दीज आर द एग्जांपल ऑफ कास्ट ग्रुप्स. नाउ लेट अस टेक द एग्जांपल्स ऑफ ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स. ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स जो आदिवासी समूह है, चार आदिवासी समूहों के मैं आपको नाम बताता हूं। गोंड, भिल्ल, मुंडा और गोंड, भिल्ल, मुंडा, कोरकू। चार ट्राइबल समूह, चार ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स, चार आदिवासी ग्रुप। गोंड, मुंडा, भिल्ल और कोरकू, ये चार आदिवासी समूह आपके सामने है। अब इनको मुझे अरेंज करके बताइए फ्रॉम हायर सोशल स्टेटस टू लोअर सोशल स्टेटस। कौन सा समूह ऊपर रहेगा और कौन सा समूह नीचे रहेगा? Which tribal group should be placed on top and which tribal group should be placed at the bottom? Yeah, I am seeing the chats. And very sorry to say that whatever arrangements I am seeing, it is not correct. गोंड से जाके पूछो कि वो अपने आप को भिल्ल से ऊपर समझता है या नीचे समझता है। किसी भिल्ल आदिवासी से जाकर पूछो कि वो अपने आप को गोंड से ऊपर समझता है या नीचे समझता है। किसी कोरकू को जाके पूछो कि वो अपने आप को किसी से ऊपर समझता है या नीचे समझता है। दिस दिस सेंटिमेंट ऑफ सुपीरियोरिटी एंड इंफीरियोरिटी अमंग द ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स डजंट एग्जिस्ट। ये समानता असमानता, ये ऊंच नीच की जो बातें जाति के लोगों में दिखाई देती है, ये ट्राइबल आदिवासियों में दिखाई नहीं देती। ट्राइबल समूहों में कोई ऊपर नहीं है, कोई नीचे है नहीं है, सभी हॉरिजॉन्टल लेवल पर इक्वल है। सो नो ट्राइबल ग्रुप कंसिडर्स इटसेल्फ अबव और बिलो अनदर ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स। इन सोशल स्टेटस they consider themselves equal. That is the reason tribal groups are distinct from the caste groups. In caste groups, the women are given the inferior social status. In tribal groups, women are given the equal social status, equal political status, equal religious status, equal economic status. The woman in tribal community is more empowered than woman in caste society. So, difference between caste group and tribal group. Now, इसीलिए आदिवासी लोगों को जाति प्रमाण पत्र नहीं दिया जाता, उनको ट्राइबल सर्टिफिकेट दिया जाता है। नाउ इफ देयर आर नो कास्ट ग्रुप, अनटचेबिलिटी प्रैक्टिस नहीं होती है आदिवासियों में। आदिवासी पीपल, दे डू नॉट have the notion of purity and pollution. So there is no practice of untouchability in tribal culture, in tribal system. So what we were discussing the basis of reservation. On what basis? The policy of reservation, whether the caste is the basis or not. And I had clarified that caste is not the basis. How caste is not the basis of reservation policy, we are discussing that. Let us keep the chain, let us keep that thread in mind. अगर अभी we are seeing caste, untouchable caste groups, how many untouchable caste groups are there? How many scheduled caste groups are there in the entire country? 1108 untouchable caste groups, scheduled caste groups are there in the entire country. How many backward caste groups are there? There are more than 5,000 backward caste groups. And as per the list, it is there are 2,500 other backward classes. So as per the state list, there are 5,000 backward caste. 5,000 ओबीसी जातियां हैं, 1,100 अनटचेबल कास्ट ग्रुप्स, we have 6,000 caste groups on one hand. On another hand, how many scheduled tribes are there in the entire country? How many tribal groups are there in the entire country? We have 750 tribal groups in the entire country. 750 tribal groups on one hand and 6,000 caste groups on other hand. Reservation is provided to OBCs. Reservation is provided to scheduled caste. Both are having caste groups. आदिवासियों में जातियां नहीं है. Tribals do not have castes, but still reservation is provided to Adivasi people. Then how can we say that reservations are based on caste? Had reservations been based on caste, then our Adivasi tribal brothers and sisters would not have been eligible for the reservation policy, because they do not have any caste group, because they do not belong to any caste group. However, despite that, they are being protected under the policy of reservation. उनमें जातियां नहीं होने के बावजूद भी उनको रिजर्वेशन का प्रोटेक्शन मिल रहा है. This itself proves that though a social group doesn't belong to any particular caste group, still he is eligible for the protection of reservation. This itself proves that policy of reservation is not based on caste. Had it been based on caste, our tribal brothers and sisters would not have been eligible for protection under reservation system. So this is a simple example as how reservations are not being based on caste, but we are being told. अच्छा, तो फिर हमें ये क्यों लगता है, अगर अगर रिजर्वेशन कास्ट पे नहीं है, आदिवासियों को भी रिजर्वेशन दिया जा रहा है, उनमें जातियां नहीं है, then how did we assume that reservations are based on caste? हमने ये कैसे मान लिया कि आरक्षण ये जाति पर आधारित है? There is a process called as obtaining caste certificate. कास्ट रिजर्वेशन का बेनिफिट लेने के लिए, रिजर्वेशन का प्रोटेक्शन लेने के लिए हमें एक सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए होता है जिसका नाम है कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट और ट्राइब सर्टिफिकेट. ये दो सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए होते हैं. दो अलग अलग सर्टिफिकेट है, दो अलग अलग सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए होते हैं. ट्राइबल वालों को ट्राइब सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए होता है, कास्ट वालों को कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए होता है. लेकिन चूंकि कास्ट बेस्ड सोसाइटी 90% सोसाइटी है इंडिया में, तो 90% लोग बोल रहे हैं कि हमें कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट निकालना है. आरक्षण लेने के लिए हमें कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट जरूरी होता है. तो आरक्षण लेने के लिए कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट जरूरी है, मतलब जाति का और आरक्षण का कुछ तो भी कनेक्शन है. यह हमारे माइंड में बैठ गया. बिकॉज वी नीड टू produced caste certificate for obtaining for securing admissions, there was a subconscious connect between the notion of caste and policy of reservation. तो क्या हो रहा है, 10वीं 12वीं होने के बाद बच्चे कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट ऑब्टेन करने के लिए भागा दौड़ी कर रहे हैं. क्यों? हमें एडमिशन के लिए, रिजर्वेशन लेने के लिए कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए है. हम कास्ट सर्टिफिकेट ले रहे हैं. ट्राइबल आदिवासी के बच्चे ट्राइब सर्टिफिकेट ले रहे हैं, लेकिन उनका आप टाइटल देखिए, बहुत जगहों पर वो ट्राइबल सर्टिफिकेट की जगह पर वो भी जाति का सर्टिफिकेट गलत टाइटल से इशू किया जा रहा था. अभी तक 2000 साल तक even tribal communities were given the certificates under the heading of caste certificate. they should have been issued the certificate under the title of tribe certificate. So ये process of obtaining the caste certificate, ये प्रोसेस की वजह से हमें ऐसा लगा कि जाति का और आरक्षण का कुछ तो भी लेना देना है, एंड that is how these two things got linked with each other. That is how they were interlinked with each other. However, caste has nothing to do with reservation. If that is the case, if caste is not the basis of reservation, what is the basis of reservation? Let us understand it. There is a common point. There is a common factor among all these three different social groups, among OBCs, among scheduled caste, and among scheduled tribes. A common factor is working, which makes them eligible for the protection of reservation. SC, ST, OBC, इन तीनों में ऐसी समान बात क्या है, ऐसा कॉमन फैक्टर क्या है जो इन तीनों समूहों को रिजर्वेशन के प्रोटेक्शन के लिए एलिजिबल बनाता है? Common factor in all these three social groups. The common factor is SC, ST, OBCs. All of them were subjected to the treatment of inequality. All of them were subjected to discrimination. All of them were subjected to deprivation. All of them were denied their basic opportunities. These are the common factors. Inequality, the treatment of inequality, the treatment of discrimination, the treatment of deprivation, and denial of opportunities, which we call ID3. I stands for inequality, D for discrimination, D for deprivation, and third D for denial of opportunities. Please try to understand it very carefully. I for inequality, D1 for discrimination, D2 for deprivation, and D3 for denial of opportunities. Because of these factors, all these social groups became backward. Because of the practice of discrimination, because of the practice of inequality, because of the deprivation, and because of denial of opportunities, all these three groups, they became backward. ये बैकवर्डनेस जो है ये आर्टिफिशियली इनके अंदर आ गया है. SC, ST, OBCs ये जन्मजात बैकवर्ड पैदा नहीं हुए. SC, ST, OBCs, they were not born backward. They were made backward. I will repeat. SC, ST, OBCs were not born backward. They were made backward because of this treatment of inequality, discrimination, deprivation, and denial of opportunities. This treatment made them socially backward. This treatment made them educationally backward. This treatment made them economically backward. This treatment made them politically backward. And this is how the backwardness resulted and crept into these three social groups. So the backwardness arising out of inequality, discrimination, deprivation, and denial of opportunity is the criteria, is the basis for providing reservations. Backwardness arising out of the treatment of inequality, discrimination, deprivation, and denial of opportunity is the criteria for providing reservations in the Constitution. ये बात समझने में मुश्किल है, ये बात लोगों को समझाने में मुश्किल है, इसीलिए आज इतनी सारी मिसकंसेप्शंस क्रिएट हो रही है related to the basis of reservations. हमें लगता है कि किसी कास्ट के नाम पर रिजर्वेशन मिलने वाला है, हमें लगता है किसी समूह के नाम पर रिजर्वेशन मिलने वाला है। नो, unless and until that social group is subjected to the treatment of inequality, discrimination, deprivation and denial of opportunities, he is not entitled for the protection of reservation. Let us keep this thing into mind. Now, this was one misconception, that reservation is based on caste. This myth we need to dismantle. This myth we need to deconstruct, and we need to explain to our society how reservations are not based on caste and how they are based on these 4 factors. Now, coming to the second misconception, which is related to reservations. Mangesh, I think 2 hours are over.
No issue, no issue. Please continue. Please continue. You can conclude in next 15 minutes, and then we can have this thing,
Okay.
question and answers.
Okay.
It's going very well, and still like almost 85 participants join, and still 75 are there in group. So it's interesting session.
Okay. Now, another misconception which is among the beneficiaries of the reservations is that the constitutional policy of reservation, or the term reservation, another term relaxation, and another term concession. We all believe that these 3 terms carry equal meaning. If we ask any students what is the meaning of reservation to him, अगर उनको हम पूछे कि भैया आपके लिए रिजर्वेशन का मतलब क्या है, किसी भी स्टूडेंट को पूछे, मोस्टली जो उनके कॉमन सेंस, उनका जो कॉमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, उसके तहत वो ये जवाब देते हैं कि रिजर्वेशन मतलब कम मार्क्स पर एडमिशन मिल जाती है। रिजर्वेशन मतलब हमें फी नहीं भरनी पड़ती या कम फीस भरनी पड़ती है। रिजर्वेशन मतलब हमें थोड़ी सी ज्यादा एज लिमिट मिलती है। तो बच्चों के लिए, स्टूडेंट्स के लिए रिजर्वेशन क्या है? उनके लिए रिजर्वेशन है कि मार्क्स में कंसेशन मिलना या कम मार्क्स पर एडमिशन मिलना, ये बच्चों के लिए रिजर्वेशन है। फीस में कंसेशन मिलना, ये बच्चों के लिए रिजर्वेशन का मतलब है। और एज लिमिट में रिलैक्सेशन मिलना, ये बच्चों के लिए रिजर्वेशन का मीनिंग है। अभी ये तीनों चीजें जो है, इनका रिजर्वेशन के साथ कोई लेना देना नहीं है। देयर इज नो प्रोविजन ऑफ रिलैक्सेशन इन कट ऑफ मार्क्स, रिलैक्सेशन इन एज लिमिट, fee concession in the constitution. There is no provision for relaxation and concessions in the constitution. Constitution only speaks about providing reservation. Constitution doesn't speaks about providing any sort of relaxation and concession. संविधान आपको केवल रिजर्वेशन की पॉलिसी देता है। संविधान ने आपको ये नहीं कहा है कि रिजर्वेशन के साथ आप रिलैक्सेशन भी दो और कंसेशन भी दो। देयर आर नो प्रोविजंस, देयर आर नो articles of the constitutions which mandate extending relaxations and concessions along with reservations, because दीज टू आर डिफरेंट थिंग्स. रिजर्वेशन क्या है? फॉर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, for constitutions, reservation is allotment of separate space to backward classes. संविधान कहता है कि ये जो ओबीसी एससी एसटी के बच्चे हैं, इनके साथ भेदभाव हुआ है, असमानता का व्यवहार हुआ है, इसलिए इनको अलग से स्पेस दी जाए ताकि इनके साथ कोई भेदभाव ना करे, ताकि इनके साथ कोई असमानता का व्यवहार ना करे. संविधान केवल इतना कहता है कि वी नीड टू अलॉट सेपरेट स्पेस टू द मेंबर्स ऑफ एससी एसटी ओबीसी पीपल इन सर्विसेज एंड इन हायर एजुकेशन. रीजन रीजन ये है सो दैट ये बच्चे जब पढ़ाई करने के लिए जाए, एडमिशन के लिए जाए, तो इनके साथ कोई भेदभाव ना हो. ये बच्चे जब पढ़ाई कंप्लीट होने के बाद नौकरी के लिए जाए, नौकरी करने के लिए अप्लाई करे, तब इनके साथ कोई भेदभाव ना हो, इसलिए इनको सेपरेट स्पेस अलॉट की जाए. दिस इज व्हाट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मीन्स बाय प्रोवाइडिंग सेपरेट स्पेस इन टर्म्स ऑफ परसेंटेज. चलो ठीक है, शेड्यूल कास्ट को इतनी स्पेस, 15% स्पेस शेड्यूल कास्ट को अलॉट की जाती है, 7.5% स्पेस शेड्यूल ट्राइब को अलॉट की जाती है, और 27% स्पेस अदर बैकवर्ड क्लासेस को अलॉट की जाती है पब्लिक सर्विसेज में और लर्निंग में, एजुकेशन में, ताकि ये लोग, ये बच्चे जब वहां पर जाए तो इनके साथ भेदभाव ना हो. ये है रिजर्वेशन. दिस इज रिजर्वेशन. रिलैक्सेशन इन कट ऑफ मार्क्स रिजर्वेशन नहीं है. रिलैक्सेशन इन एज लिमिट रिजर्वेशन नहीं है. फी कंसेशन रिजर्वेशन नहीं है. अभी हम लोगों ने इन चीजों को रिजर्वेशन मान लिया है. दिस इज नॉट द केस. अभी इससे डिसएडवांटेज क्या हो रहा है? इससे डिसएडवांटेज क्या हो रहा है, यानी ये रिजर्वेशन इन कट ऑफ मार्क्स, हमें रिजर्वेशन इन कट ऑफ मार्क्स, हमें यह लगता है ये एडवांटेज है. हमें लगता है रिजर्वेशन इन एज लिमिट एडवांटेज है. ये एडवांटेज नहीं है, ये डिसएडवांटेज है. वेदर you agree with me or not, it is my personal opinion. You may differ with me, that is your right, but I personally feel that relaxation in cutoff marks, relaxation in age limit, even number of attempts, relaxation in number of attempts, उनका कहना है कि भैया हमें चांसेस ज्यादा मिलते हैं, तो ये रिलैक्सेशन है, ये रिजर्वेशन है. तो रिलैक्सेशन इन नंबर ऑफ अटेम्प्ट्स, रिलैक्सेशन इन एज, रिलैक्सेशन इन मार्क्स, they have deprived you from your further opportunities in another area. Just understand what I am trying to say. Relaxation in cutoff marks, relaxation in attempts, relaxation in age limit have deprived the members of SC, ST, OBC in participation, have deprived their opportunities in many other areas. How? ये एक्सप्लेन करके मैं मेरा टॉक खत्म करने वाला हूं. कैसे? रिलैक्सेशन इन मार्क्स ये क्या है भैया? ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, ये केवल ऑफिशियल टर्मिनोलॉजी है. जब मेरिट लिस्ट लगती है, जनरल मेरिट लिस्ट लगती है, तो जनरल मेरिट लिस्ट में रैंक्स के और परसेंटेज के अकॉर्डिंगली अगर हम देखते हैं, 100 लोगों में आपको एटलीस्ट 10 लोग ऐसे मिलेंगे, 15 लोग ऐसे मिलेंगे जिसका परसेंटेज एक ही है, जिन्होंने स्कोर किया है 85.87%, देन 85.86%, 85.84%, यानी 0.01। सो अगर 100 कैंडिडेट्स की मेरिट लिस्ट में से टॉप, सबसे ऊपर जो फर्स्ट रैंक है वो है 85%.87, 85.87%, ये टॉप है। उसके बाद है 85.86, उसके बाद है 85.80, फिर 85.79, ऐसा करते करते 84% आता है, फिर 83% वाले आते हैं, फिर 82, फिर 80% वाले आते हैं, फिर 79% वाले आते हैं। तो 85% से लेकर 79% तक में वो मेरिट लिस्ट खत्म हो जाती है, 100 कैंडिडेट इसी में आ जाते हैं। वेरिएशन कितना है, मार्जिन कितनी है? 79% से लेकर 85.87%, ये मार्जिन में ही आपके 100 कैंडिडेट्स आ गए हैं। अगर अगर आप मेरिट का कंसेप्ट इसमें लागू करते हो, मेरिट मेरिट का कंसेप्ट जो कि मोस्ट फ्लॉड कंसेप्ट है, जिसको मैं पेपर मेरिट कहता हूं, पेपर मेरिट, इट इज नॉट एक्चुअल मेरिट, इट इज अ पेपर मेरिट। तो ये 100 कैंडिडेट में केवल मेरिट का कंसेप्ट अगर अप्लाई करे तो एक ही कैंडिडेट मेरिटोरियस है, सबसे पहला वाला, जिसको 85.87 मिले हैं, जिसको 85.86 मिले हैं, उसको भी आप कहेंगे कि भैया इसमें मेरिट नहीं है। ये है आपका फ्लॉड मेरिट का कंसेप्ट, जो 85.86 वालों को भी मेरिट नहीं मानता है, क्योंकि उसका मानना है कि जो जिसने सबसे ज्यादा रैंक और परसेंटेज ऑब्टेन किए हैं वही मेरिटोरियस है। दिस इज द मोस्ट फ्लॉड कंसेप्ट ऑफ मेरिट। एक्चुअल कंसेप्ट ऑफ मेरिट क्या है? ये 100 के 100 कैंडिडेट जो है ये मेरिटोरियस कैंडिडेट्स है। तो ऑल द कैंडिडेट्स हु आर इन द मेरिट लिस्ट, in that merit list of 100, ranging from 79% to 85%, all are meritorious candidates. Now, अभी ये जो 0.2%, 3% का जो डिफरेंस होता है कट ऑफ मार्क्स में, ये डिफरेंस आपके और सारे SC ST OBC के कैंडिडेट्स के ऊपर ये ब्लेम लगाता है कि भैया ये लोग जो है इनके परसेंटेज कम होने के बावजूद भी इनको एडमिशन मिल रही है, तो मेरिट डाइल्यूट हो रहा है, एफिशिएंसी डाइल्यूट हो रही है, और जो कॉम्पिटेंट लोग नहीं हैं उनकी भी एडमिशन हो रही है। दिस इज द एलिगेशन which is being leveled against. That is the most what we call bachkana allegation. That is the most childish allegation which I have ever heard. So अभी ये हाउ ये कह रहे हैं कि रिजर्वेशन ये मेरिट के कट ऑफ को भी ये रिजर्वेशन मान रहे हैं। रिजर्वेशन का कंसेप्ट कुछ अलग ही है, ये मेरिट के कट ऑफ को रिलैक्सेशन समझ नहीं रहे। दे आर नॉट अंडरस्टैंडिंग द डिफरेंस बिटवीन रिलैक्सेशन इन कट ऑफ मार्क्स एंड द कंसेप्ट ऑफ रिजर्वेशन। तो ये क्या कह रहे हैं, चूंकि रिजर्व्ड कैटेगरी के कैंडिडेट्स जो है उनको कम मार्क्स होते हैं, तो रिजर्वेशन वाले कैंडिडेट्स ये एलिजिबल नहीं होते, वो मेरिटोरियस नहीं होते हैं, वो होशियार नहीं होते हैं, एंड ऑल दैट बुलशिट। ये जो एलिगेशंस है इसको एक बार साइड में रखिए। इन्होंने क्या किया है, इससे बड़ा डैमेज, ये कट ऑफ मार्क्स का जो रिलैक्सेशन है इसको हथियार बनाया है और उसको बड़ा डैमेज किया है। बड़ा डैमेज किस तरह से किया है कि अभी ठीक है, पब्लिक सर्विसेज में रिजर्वेशन है, एजुकेशन में रिजर्वेशन है, लेकिन चूंकि रिलैक्सेशन की वजह से मेरिट स्पॉइल होता है, एफिशिएंसी होती है, इसीलिए आप लोगों को, ये लोग आपका कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट ऑफ पार्टिसिपेशन डिनाई कर रहे हैं। किसमें? उन सभी चीजों में जहां जहां पर आरक्षण लागू नहीं है, उसमें। आरक्षण अभी किसमें लागू नहीं है? जुडिशियरी में आरक्षण लागू नहीं है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर में आरक्षण लागू नहीं है, ग्रुप ए की पोस्ट में आरक्षण लागू नहीं है, क्लास 1 की पोस्ट में आरक्षण लागू नहीं है, और और सारे सुपर स्पेशलिटी इंस्टीट्यूशंस, सारे नेशनल साइंटिफिक रिसर्च रिलेटेड इंस्टीट्यूशंस, इसमें आरक्षण लागू नहीं है। चार चार एरियाज है, चार इंपॉर्टेंट एरियाज है जहां पर रिजर्वेशन इज नॉट इंप्लीमेंटेड, एंड दीज एरियाज आर इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट. Which are those four areas? Judiciary is the area where reservation is not implemented because of the flawed concept of merit. There is the private sector where reservation is not implemented because of this flawed logic of merit. There is the area of there are important institutions like Bhabha Atomic Research Center, all the research institutions where core scientific research is being conducted and where reservations are not implemented, and they are excluded from the policy of reservations. And these are the areas, ये चार इंपॉर्टेंट एरियाज है, मैं अगेन रिपीट करता हूं: जुडिशियरी, national institutions which are related to research, class 1 posts, and private sector. These are the four areas where the constitutional right of participation is denied to SC, ST, OBCs on the flawed logic of merit. Now, what is the solution? What is the solution? Simple solution है, we don't want your relaxation in judiciary, we don't want your relaxation in class 1 post, we don't want your relaxation in private sector, we don't want your relaxation in research related institutions. We only want reservation. We only want reservation. We don't want relaxation. We don't want relaxations. We don't want you to relax or dilute your eligibility criteria. We only want our right of participation. We only want our right of opportunity in judiciary, in private sector, in class 1 post, and in all the institution of research. We don't want your relaxations. These areas are so complicated areas to discuss, and for me it becomes more difficult when it is online. Usually we go for whole day physical workshops for discussing and explaining these things. This is a classroom training material. This is not at all a training session which can be conducted online. So I am very sorry if I am not able to emphasize my points, or if I am not able to explain the things, because usually it is a physical one-to-one, face-to-face training sessions where we elicit response. ये इंटरैक्टिव होता है, ये इंटरैक्टिव होता है, तब जाकर ये समझ में आता है. Here, because of the time constraints, we were not able to go for that sort of interactive trainings. Anyway, whatever has been discussed, if there are any things remaining, there might be many things remaining, you might get in touch with the director of Sambodhi Academy, Mangesh Borkar sir. He will be there to guide you. I am there to guide you. We will be continuing these sessions. He will be sharing you the booklet of this constitutional policy of reservation, which includes all these topics. ये एक PDF फाइल है, ये मंगेश बोरकर सर आपके साथ शेयर कर देंगे. You may go through it and we can discuss it further. Thank you all. Thank you Mangesh Borkar and Sambodhi IAS Academy for holding session on such important and very controversial topics. हमने अभी तक controversy discuss भी नहीं की है. So that will be on some another day. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Hemant Tirpude, sir. Regional Provident Fund Commissioner, Kukutpalli, Hyderabad, Telangana State. And this session was a very critical analysis, intellectual brainstorming session, eye-opening session. And I hope the students of Sambodhi Career Academy and those who participated from across India, I can see different names which are from south part of India, and so many people belong to different government departments, education sectors, professionals. They also participated in this session. And now this session is open for question answer. So any student or any participant other than the students of Sambodhi Career Academy, so they can raise their question and we can have a question answer session for next 10 minutes. Yeah, please, question answer session. So anybody who is having question, and please like you can open your videos also. Any question? Yeah, please ask question. If anybody is having question, you can unmute and you can ask question. And those who are not associated with Sambodhi Career Academy, please send me your WhatsApp number for the further connectivity regarding constitutional policy of reservation. My WhatsApp number, I have shared my WhatsApp number in chat books. Okay, that is 810-801-642. Okay, so, and we are going to upload this video on our YouTube channel. That is IS Sambodhi News also. So my number is here. You can share your number, WhatsApp number, name, education, and service or department. Dr. Hemant, there is one question. What is the constitutional way to implement reservation in private sector? Yeah, Dr. Hemant, there is one question. Hello.
Yeah. What is the question?
It is mentioned in chat box as well. What is the constitutional way to implement reservation in private sector? Capt Shri. Sir, please mention your name. Like, what is your name?
Okay.
Constitutional way to implement reservation in private sector.
Okay. Sir, please let us talk face to face so that we can. अच्छा, श्रीकांत सर है क्या?
हाँ, कैप्टन श्रीकांत गोंडा ने. Yeah, I think Air India, right?
Yeah.
Excellent
Yes.
presentation, sir.
Thank you, sir.
आ गया.
Sir, means before answering to this to your question, whether the OBC, SC, ST communities, see, for me, reservation policy as mandated in the Constitution, that is the objective. And the other measures, the facilitative measure, relaxation and concessions are the facilitating measures. They are not the objectives. So before going to the issue of implementing of reservation in other 4 areas, a question is required to be asked to us whether we are ready to delink the constitutional policy of reservation with this facilitative measures of relaxation and concession, so that we can secure our larger constitutional rights in judiciary, in private sector, in remaining 4 areas. Are we ready to sacrifice these administrative measures, these facilitative measures, in favor of our constitutional objective of reservations? Whether our society, intelligentsia, the academicians, the community leaders, whether they are able to explain this delinking or sacrificing of these relaxations to achieve the larger objective of reservations. if we are ready to do this, then comes the next step of constitutional amendment. Then comes the next step of constitutional amendment. And yes, there might be lots of constitutional amendments required. Apart from Article 15, 16 and related articles and clauses, we also be requiring to insert new articles. But because this is the I feel this is the internal matter of the SC/ST OBC communities. Whether we are up, just let me tell you, in current example, our family members, you will be seeing our own family members when we are having our kids within age limit, when we are having our own finances to pay the fees, still we are not ready to forego this relaxation so that a space is created in the reserved category for the more needy person of our own society. So we being in this stage that we are not able to sacrifice these relaxations and concessions even within the framework of reservation so as to create one more space for more deserving and needy student. I think taking out this mentality and extrapolating it to the other areas where reservation is not implemented, sir, it is a very big journey.
Absolutely true, sir. That calls for the self-confidence,
Yes.
self-knowledge, and excelling in one's profession and studies. And
Right,
that
sir.
will create so much of confidence. Our own student would like to go and compete with in the private sector, but they still feel discriminated. I have many of my friends who have excelled in the private sector, but they still face the discrimination, but they take it head on.
Right, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Very good session. Lovely.
Thank you, Captain Gondane, sir. And yeah, it require a lot of efforts to enlighten our society because, as Dr. Hemant rightly said, that this is a topic which is related to conflict, controversies, and to avoid such kind of conflicts and controversies, we need to enlighten society. And this program, this session, is a part of that enlightenment. Okay, so I hope the students, those who are learning from this session and those who are future bureaucrats of this country, okay, like IAS, IPS, and because the agenda of Sambodhi Career Academy is to produce those IAS and IPS and rest of the officers, those who are having constitutional morality, ethics, and those who are enlightened in this manner. Okay, so we are organizing such sessions for that. So it is your responsibility, students and rest of the people from different sectors of the society, that you need to enlighten society in this manner, because we are having so many, like we have lack of awareness. Those who are getting the benefits of reservation and what Dr. Hemant sir mentioned, that relaxation and rest of the things. Okay, so we are also having so many confusions related to this policy. Anyway, anybody who is having another question? Anybody who is having another question? Yeah, anyway, so from the students' side, I would like to share 2 minutes thought on this session to Chetan Shinde, and then afterwards, a student of Sambodhi IAS Academy, Rini Rosario, she will put a vote of thanks, and then we shall conclude this session. So on the behalf of Sambodhi Career Academy, I express my gratitude to Dr. Hemant sir and those who participated in a short notice of WhatsApp messages. for attending this session. Yeah, Chetan, you can share your opinion you related to today's session. Chetan Shinde, and then Rini will express vote of thanks. Chetan, are you there? Yeah, Chetan.
Yes, sir, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Chetan.
My voice is audible, right, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So first of all, Dr. Hemant sir, so when I got to know that it was you would be taking a lecture, I was so delighted and excited to hear you because the last time you spoke, I was not able to attend your session. It was recorded, and I cancelled everything and I wanted to meet you in personal today, but for some reasons the session was held online. But I was tremendously excited to meet you to hear things from you because I have heard about you a lot of things from my colleagues and other people working in other organizations. So it was a very I was really excited to hear things from you. And touching this a sensitive topic like this reservation, and the reason why it has become sensitive and debatable is because the confusion lying between people and so many misconceptions and everything. And with this kind of sessions and this kind of in-depth analysis and training, people will get a very good idea and very good knowledge about the reservation at its core. What are the values? Like you mentioned, it is not a caste base. It is something which you identify as what has been done in the past. I mean, the discrimination and inequality, I and triple D. That's the concept you said. I mean, this concept, I think many of the people who are pursuing or giving the public services examination or UPSC, I think they might also know or not know this concept because it's not something that you hear. Nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to enlightenment, and these things are being kept, always being kept away from the public, and other controversies and other things are being more projected to the user so that they never get to know the reality. But you direct, I mean, such a great session. I cannot explain. I am not able to express myself, but I wrote in each and every line of you in my notebook, and I'm going to go through over it again and again to always have those things in my mind. And I'm from now onwards wherever I step outside, I will do the same thing. I'll inform the people in the right manner, and I'll try to pass the same message and try to inform them that what is the core and what is the idea, what is the basis, so that each of one has this responsibility, and if every one of them conveys this message to and make them understand, we would definitely will be able to eradicate this kind of confusion and misconception so that people will understand what is the basis and what exactly has to be done. I had many questions that I want to ask in person, not online. Definitely, because when you throw so much knowledge and so many concepts, definitely you get so many doubts and what is going on. So I want to I'll clarify with you or Mangesh sir. But yeah, uh, and I'm so grateful to hear you and attend this session. And thanks a lot, sir. It means a lot. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chetan. And Chetan is a potential candidate of Sambodhi Career Academy and is a future IAS. All students, those who participated in this session, are our future bureaucrats, those who are shouldering the responsibility to run this country. And I'm expecting my students that they will definitely become the great bureaucrats like Dr. Hemant, who will shoulder the responsibility to enlighten the society as well. Now coming to the conclusion part, and over to you, Reni Rosario. She is also a very potential student of Sambodhi Career Academy and a future bureaucrat of this country. So, Reni, vote of thanks from your side. Thank
So,
you.
am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, Reni.
So, I would like to thank Dr. Hemant Tirpude sir for an enlightening lecture. Reservation is always a hot topic in our society, but we fail to truly understand it. This lecture not only helped us in understanding the concept more clearly, but also helped us broaden our understanding of this. This lecture has helped us to come one step closer to being an informed citizen. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time for delivering this lecture. I'm sure that, like me, everyone is present here today have learned something new. I would also like to thank Mangesh sir and Sambodhi IAS Academy for their continuous efforts in providing its students with such lectures, providing valuable knowledge, and also for their continuous support and guidance. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so thanks, Reni, and thanks to Dr. Hemant sir and all participants. So I conclude this session here only. Okay, thank you very much. And those who are new to Sambodhi Career Academy, so please share your WhatsApp number to my WhatsApp number, that is 8108016455, for our further association in the mission of socio-educational economic transformation, because our aim is to connect to those people who are like-minded and who want to introduce some constructive changes in the society. Okay, so my mobile number is already mentioned so many times. So please share your numbers and your details on my WhatsApp number. Thank you very much. Have a nice day to all of you. Thank you.